Okay, so you've probably heard about it, right? Wegovy.
Yeah, it's everywhere these days.
It seems like everybody's talking about this weight loss drug. But what's the real story?
Yeah, for sure.
We went through tons of articles, medical journals, you name it. We even found some people who are actually using it.
Oh, wow.
Like, there's this woman, Tara Kay, she's been sharing her whole experience online.
That's cool.
So we're going to break it all down, separate the hype from the facts, figure out what Wegovy is really all about.
Sounds good, yeah. It's interesting, right? It's this Wegovy, it's actually semaglutide,
Okay.
which, believe it or not, it was originally developed to treat type 2 diabetes.
Really?
Yeah, weight loss was actually like a side effect, but a pretty amazing one.
That's kind of wild, isn't it? A diabetes drug helps people lose weight. How does that even work?
Well, think of it this way. Semaglutide, it basically mimics a hormone that your body naturally produces. It's called GLP-1.
Okay.
And this hormone, it's like, it tells your brain when you're full, when you're satisfied.
Yeah.
Wegovy, it kind of cranks up the volume on that message, if you will.
I see.
It slows down digestion, and it makes you feel less hungry.
So it's not tricking your body or anything. It's more like working with what's already there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, speaking of working with what's already there, I noticed that Ozempic, it also uses semaglutide, right? Are they the same thing?
They both use semaglutide, that's true.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference.
What is it?
Ozempic is prescribed at a lower dose,
Okay.
and mainly to manage type 2 diabetes.
Gotcha.
Wegovy, though, is specifically approved for weight loss, and it's given at a higher dose.
So like two different versions of the same song.
Yeah, like one's playing on the radio and one's at a concert.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's get down to it, right? The question everybody wants to know. How much weight are we talking about? What can people actually expect?
Well, there have been clinical trials, and the results have been pretty encouraging.
That's good.
Participants lost, on average, about 15% of their body weight over 68 weeks. Just to put that in perspective, that's like, say, if you weigh 200 pounds, that's losing 30 pounds.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
And some folks even lost more than that, up to 20% or even higher.
So it really works.
Compared to the placebo group, who only lost like 2.5%. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That's a huge difference. Definitely sounds promising. And, that's where Tara Kay's story comes in. Remember her, the woman who's been documenting her experience with Wegovy?
Oh, yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me was she talks about what she calls these non-scale victories.
Interesting. What are those?
Things like, not being as obsessed with food anymore or feeling full after eating less.
I see.
Which, to me, that shows a real shift in her relationship with food.
Yeah, it really does. Those non-scale victories, I think, they show a real change in someone's well-being overall. It's not just the number on the scale. It's about, feeling good in your own skin.
Exactly. It's about how you feel. So let's talk about the timeline, right? Like, what can someone expect in those first few weeks and months on Wegovy?
Well, at the very beginning, your dosage, it increases gradually.
Okay.
And you'll probably start to notice a decrease in your appetite.
Makes sense.
The weight loss itself, though, might be a little slower at first.
So no overnight miracles, huh?
Nope, definitely not. That first month is all about adjusting to the medication, managing any side effects that pop up,
Right.
and starting to build those healthy habits,
Yeah.
the ones that'll help you succeed in the long run.
Those are so important.
That's actually a perfect segue because a lot of people emphasize this combo of Wegovy with diet and exercise.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot too. Why is that so important? Can't the medication just do all the work?
While Wegovy can be super helpful, it works best when it's part of a bigger approach,
I see.
It's like, think of it as a team effort.
Okay.
Wegovy, it helps get your appetite under control,
Right.
but it's the changes you make in your lifestyle, the healthier eating and all that, that's what really puts you in the driver's seat.
So you're still in control.
You got it.
So it's like Wegovy gives you an assist, but you're calling the plays.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, are there any specific recommendations when it comes to diet and exercise? Like, what should people really focus on?
Well, creating a calorie deficit, that's key for weight loss for sure.
Okay.
A good place to start might be cutting about 500 calories from what you normally eat each day.
A fine bird.
But of course, you always want to talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian.
Yeah.
They can help you figure out the right calorie goal just for you.
Personalized advice, that's always the best. Now, what about exercise? What kind of activity is most beneficial?
Well, you want to aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week.
Okay.
things like brisk walking, cycling, swimming, that sort of thing.
I got it.
Or if you're feeling up to it, maybe 75 minutes of something more vigorous.
Like what?
Oh, running or high-intensity interval training.
Right.
And don't forget about strength training.
I was just going to say, Tara Kay mentioned that she added strength training to her routine, and she's seen amazing results.
Really?
Yeah. Why is that so important?
Strength training is crucial, especially when you're losing weight.
How come?
It helps keep your muscles strong, which is really important for a healthy metabolism and keeping the weight off in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just about losing weight in general. It's about losing fat and gaining muscle.
Ah, I get it.
Yeah.
So you're actually changing your body composition.
Exactly. And that helps you stay healthy and keep the weight off long term.
So it's working smarter, not harder. And you know what I love about Tara Kay's story?
What's that?
She makes all these healthy habits seem doable, Like she talks about trying a new vegetable each week.
Yeah.
Small changes that add up.
Absolutely. It's all about finding what works for you and making changes you can actually stick with.
Right. It's got to be sustainable. And speaking of long term, what happens after that first year on Wegovy?
Right.
I mean, keeping the weight off, that's the real challenge, right? It is. It is. It's one thing to lose the weight, but another thing entirely to keep it off.
For sure. So what have they found? What do the studies say about long-term weight management with Wegovy?
Well, there was this one study that followed participants for up to 4 years, and the results were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
They found that people kept losing weight for about 65 weeks.
Okay.
But after that point, their weight kind of stabilized.
So they stopped losing weight.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It remained lower than their starting weight. On average, they maintained a 10% weight loss even after 4 years.
That's incredible. But it does suggest that for a lot of people, they might need to keep taking the medication to keep that weight off, right?
You're right. It might not be a quick fix. It could be more of a long-term commitment.
Right. That's a really good point. It's different from just going on a diet for a little while. And that brings up something else about Wegovy that I find really fascinating. Its effect on heart health. I was reading about this trial, the SELECT trial, and they were specifically looking at Wegovy and the heart. What did they find?
Well, the results were pretty groundbreaking, honestly. They discovered that semaglutide, the stuff that makes Wegovy work, it actually reduced the risk of major heart problems by 20%.
Wait, seriously? 20%?
Yep. Heart attacks, strokes, all those scary things. And get this was true even for people who didn't have diabetes, but they were obese and had existing heart disease.
That's amazing. 20%, that's a huge difference. Makes you wonder if it's just the weight loss doing that or if there's something more going on, right?
That's exactly what scientists are trying to figure out. While losing weight definitely helps, there's more and more evidence that semaglutide might be doing something else for the heart independently of the weight loss.
So maybe it's like helping with blood pressure or cholesterol or something like that.
Could be, might be directly improving things like blood pressure, cholesterol levels, all of those metabolic markers that contribute to heart health.
So it's not just about being thinner, it's about being healthier from the inside out.
You got it.
Wow. That really changes how we think about it all, doesn't it? I mean, if Wegovy can have such a big impact on the heart, even without a ton of weight loss, it kind of challenges how we view obesity, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, is it just about the number on the scale? Or is there a bigger picture when it comes to metabolic health?
That's such a good question. But before we get too carried away with all the potential good stuff, we got to talk about the other side of the coin, the potential downsides.
Right, of course.
Wegovy, just like any medication, it can have some side effects. It's not always sunshine and roses.
You're absolutely right. It's a part nobody really wants to hear about, but it's crucial for anyone who's thinking about trying Wegovy. The good news is most of these side effects are pretty mild and usually go away over time.
That's reassuring. So what are the most common ones people might experience? What should they be prepared for?
The ones we hear about most often are stomach-related, like nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, maybe constipation, and stomachache.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Usually it's because of that slow digestion that Wegovy causes.
Yeah. If it's affecting your appetite and digestion, it's bound to cause a little tummy trouble, right?
Makes sense, doesn't it? It's like your digestive system is trying to figure out this new rhythm. And while these side effects are usually manageable, it is worth mentioning that some people have a harder time with them than others. Actually, in some of the clinical trials, about 7% of the people taking Wegovy ended up stopping because of these digestive issues.
Wow, 7%. That's not insignificant.
No, it's not. And, Tara Kay mentioned in her online journal that she had some nausea and constipation at first too, but she talked to her doctor and they figured out ways to manage it. with some medication and changing your diet a bit.
So it can be done.
Absolutely. It's so important to be open with your doctor, to keep that communication going. They can offer different strategies to help minimize those side effects.
Right, like adjusting the dosage or prescribing something for the nausea.
Exactly. Or even just recommending some simple changes to your diet, like eating more fiber. There are options.
It's good to know there are things you can do. But what about the less common side effects? The ones that are potentially more serious. What are those?
Well, while they're not as common, it is important to be aware of them. Things like pancreatitis, problems with the gallbladder, low blood sugar, especially for people who are also taking diabetes medication, kidney issues, and allergic reactions.
Okay, those sound a bit more serious. What are some red flags people should look out for? When should they call their doctor right away?
Well, if you start having really bad pain in your abdomen and it just won't go away, whether you're vomiting or not, that could be a sign of pancreatitis, and you should definitely get medical help right away.
Got it.
Same thing if you have pain in your upper stomach, fever, your skin or eyes start looking yellow, or your stools become clay-colored. Those could be signs of gallbladder problems.
So basically, any unusual or persistent pain, especially in the stomach area, should be taken seriously.
Exactly. And for anyone with diabetes, it's super important to keep a close eye on your blood sugar levels while you're on Wegovy. It can increase the risk of hypoglycemia, which is when your blood sugar gets too low.
And what does that feel like?
Oh, you might feel dizzy, lightheaded. Your vision might get blurry. You could feel anxious, sweaty, confused. All those things can be signs of low blood sugar.
Sounds like it's all about listening to your body and letting your doctor know if anything seems off.
Exactly. They can help you weigh the pros and cons based on your own health history.
Right, that makes sense. And this brings us back to that whole game-changer aspect of Wegovy. If it can improve heart health and maybe even lower the risk of things like heart attacks and strokes, that's a pretty big deal.
It really is.
But it's important to remember, Wegovy is still relatively new, right? We don't know everything about its long-term effects yet.
That's very true. While the early research is really encouraging, we need more long-term studies to fully understand all the effects of Wegovy, both the good and the bad. We also need to think about the bigger societal implications.
What do you mean by societal implications?
Well, imagine if Wegovy becomes readily available to everyone.
Okay.
How will that change how we think about obesity? Will it finally be seen as a disease, not just a cosmetic issue?
That's a really profound question, and it raises a lot of other ethical concerns too.
Sure.
Like, will people feel pressured to use Wegovy just to look a certain way, even if they don't really need it medically? How will we make sure it's accessible and affordable for everyone who needs it?
You're hitting on all the crucial questions. The conversation about Wegovy is far from over. As more people start using it, and as we get more research, we'll learn even more about how complex it really is.
It's like Wegovy is more than just a weight loss drug. It's starting a much bigger conversation about health, how we see each other, and the future of medicine.
I agree. It's like opening a door to a whole new world.
Exactly. And as with anything new and powerful, we need to move forward carefully and thoughtfully. We need open and honest discussions about both the potential good and the potential bad. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the science behind Wegovy, the impressive weight loss results, how important lifestyle changes are, the potential side effects, and the bigger implications for heart health and how society views obesity. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more thing we need to talk about. The elephant in the room, so to speak. Uh-oh, what's that? The Wegovy shortage.
Oh, right. Yes, that's a big issue we can't ignore. The demand for Wegovy has just exploded. And unfortunately, there's not enough to go around right now.
It's a real problem. It's making it hard for people to get their medication, even if they have a prescription.
It is, and it's causing a lot of frustration and worry, which is understandable.
Absolutely. Even Tara Kay mentioned it in her journal. She had to go to a bunch of different pharmacies to get her prescription filled because her regular pharmacy was out of stock.
Yeah, a lot of people are going through the same thing.
So what's causing this shortage? And what are they doing to fix it?
It's kind of a perfect storm of different factors.
Like what?
Well, the demand is super high, of course, but there are also some manufacturing challenges and issues with the supply chain.
I see.
Novo Nordisk, the company that makes Wegovy, they're definitely working hard to increase production and sort things out.
That's good to hear.
But nobody's really sure when the shortage will be completely resolved.
Well, that's a bummer. But hopefully they'll figure it out soon.
Fingers crossed. In the meantime, it's really important for people to stay in touch with their doctors and pharmacists.
Right.
They can help you figure out alternative solutions if you need them.
Okay, so we've really explored all the ins and outs of Wegovy, from the science and the potential benefits to the risks and the current supply issues. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. So we've talked about how Wegovy can actually improve heart health even if you don't lose a ton of weight. What does that tell us about how we view obesity? Like, is it time to stop just focusing on weight and look at metabolic health as a whole?
It really gets you thinking about where healthcare is headed. We're starting to understand that it's not just about simple solutions anymore.
Yeah, it's more complicated than that.
There's this whole interplay of hormones, genetics, and how individuals respond to treatment.
It's like we're finally seeing the whole picture, not just a little piece of it.
Exactly.
And that makes me think about how everybody reacts to Wegovy differently. It's not like a magic bullet that works the same for everyone.
That's so true. What works amazingly well for one person might do absolutely nothing for someone else.
So there's no guarantee.
Nope. Genetics, your metabolism, lifestyle choices, even the bacteria in your gut, all of that can impact how Wegovy works for you.
So it's really about personalized medicine, figuring out what's best for each individual.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to have a doctor who gets all of that, who can put together a treatment plan just for you.
That's what I really liked about Tara Kay's approach. She's got this whole team at Form Health with doctors, dietitians, all sorts of specialists. It's not just about popping a pill.
Right, it's a whole process.
It's about learning about your body, making changes you can actually keep up with, and having people to support you along the way.
It sounds like she's got a great system.
Yeah, she does. And I think that's a big takeaway from all of this. Wegovy can be a really powerful tool, but it works best as part of a bigger plan, one that tackles all the things that contribute to obesity.
Definitely. It's not about willpower or some crash diet. It's about building a healthier way of life that you can stick with long term.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. I think that's the perfect note to end on. We've covered a lot today: the science behind Wegovy, how well it can work for weight loss, those lifestyle changes, the potential side effects, and even the bigger implications for heart health and how we view obesity as a society.
Phew, that's a lot.
It is, but it's all important stuff. It's a complicated and fascinating topic, and one that we'll definitely be hearing more about in the future.
For sure, there's so much more to learn.
So stay curious, keep asking those questions, and most importantly, talk to your doctors to figure out what's best for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Wegovy. Until next time, stay informed and keep exploring.